Joining me now, NBC News international correspondent Raf Sanchez, who is in Tel Aviv for us, and NBC News chief White House correspondent and co-anchor of Weekend Today, Peter Alexander. So, Peter, what do we know about President Biden's call right now with Israel's prime minister?
Andrew, we are told by officials here that that call between President Biden and Bibi Netanyahu began about 30 minutes ago. As of just a moment ago, I'm told it is still ongoing. It's likely that the Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, would be a part of this. I'm told the Vice President, Kamala Harris, participating in this call as well. And it certainly comes at a very tense time in the relationship between these two individuals. This is the first time they are speaking to one another since that strike that killed the 7 World Central Kitchen aid workers just a matter of days ago. The call was scheduled after that strike took place. The president, I'm told by a U.S. official here, is, quote, very angry. In his words, as you said earlier, he described his outrage at this situation right now. And among the real concerns that the U.S. has, that President Biden has, and concerns that he is going to be communicating, we are told, to Prime Minister Netanyahu today, is the mistreatment or the sort of failure to take precautions to protect humanitarian aid workers right now inside of Gaza. As many as 200 aid workers, by some accounts, have lost their lives over the course of the last 6 months since this war began. A U.S. official saying that the president's anger is, in this official's words, indicative of the broader problem of how the Israelis are conducting their operations, saying that they either did not pass on to the military the deconfliction, the information they received from World Central Kitchen about where their workers would be, or that the military received that information and simply ignored it. There on your screen, a picture of those 7 individuals who were killed in that strike, among them an American-Canadian citizen. Earlier today, we heard from a family member of the father, I believe it was, of that American-Canadian citizen, who said they have not yet heard from the White House on this matter. But obviously, Andrea, what we're going to be watching over the course of this day, when we likely hear from the Secretary of State as he comes out with scheduled remarks later this afternoon, better understanding of what happened there and whether there were any better agreements that the two sides were able to reach. And I think that could really change the way that the White House pushes ahead in terms of this relationship.
And, Peter, we're also learning about the First Lady privately urging President Biden to do something to end the civilian casualties. That's a very unusual break in the visual privacy between the two of them that's been notable in this administration and most. Tell me about that.
Yeah, that revelation not coming from either of the Bidens themselves, but coming from a Muslim leader who was here in a meeting with President Biden earlier this week. The president, ahead of an iftar dinner, was visiting with this Muslim leader who shared an experience with NBC News that she thought was particularly dramatic and striking in terms of the First Lady's view on this issue. This Muslim leader told my colleague Yamiche Alcindor that during that meeting, the president indicated how much concern the First Lady has had and expressed to him about the situation taking place, saying specifically that she has said, stop it now, Joe, referring to the conflict now again in its 6 months, approaching the 6-month mark since the massacre took place in southern Israel. But it really does sort of reveal the pressures the president is facing on all sides of this matter, including those from his closest confidant of all, his wife, the First Lady.
And, Raf, you spoke with World Central Kitchen's Jacob Flickinger's family. He was the U.S.-Canadian dual citizen, one of the 7 victims of the attack. Talk to me about that. What did they tell you?
Yeah, Andrea, that's right. I just got off a call with John and Sylvie. They are the parents of Jacob Flickinger, that 33-year-old American-Canadian citizen. And they told me they do not have confidence that the Israeli military will thoroughly investigate this killing. They are saying they want to see an independent investigation carried out by a third party. World Central Kitchen is saying the same. They are asking the Israelis to preserve evidence, any video, any audio, any internal orders that could be part of a third-party probe. There's no indication at this stage that the Israeli military, which is investigating itself, is going to agree to allow a third party to look at any of that evidence. But that is the call from World Central Kitchen. They also have a lot of unanswered questions, Andrea. They want to know, how is it that Israeli forces opened fire on that aid convoy when, as you said, it was clearly marked with the logo of the World Central Kitchen, and its movements were coordinated ahead of time? And Andrea, I found this very moving, that these are two people in the deepest grief you can imagine, and yet they made the point to me that they are just one family, and there are thousands and thousands and thousands of families in Gaza who have lost someone. Take a listen.
We are two people who suffer because we've lost our only son, but we're only two. There are thousands and thousands. There are, 5 other World Central Kitchen aid workers killed in this attack. There were 200 aid workers in Gaza that have been killed.
Andrea, you will remember a couple of hours before that deadly Israeli airstrike in Gaza that killed those World Central Kitchen workers, there was an explosion in Damascus, the capital of Syria, at the Iranian embassy. It killed a number of senior members of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. Iran blaming Israel for that attack. And over the last day, the Ayatollah of Iran vowing revenge. Those are threats the Israelis are taking very seriously. Their air defenses are on high alert right now. The Israeli military has canceled leave for combat units. The spokesman for the Israeli military just now confirming that they are actually jamming GPS signal in central Israel right now. So Google Maps, other functions are not working. He is urging people not to make runs on ATMs, on supermarkets. An Israeli official tells me at this point there is no concrete intelligence of an imminent Iranian attack, but this is something that they are taking seriously. Andrea.
Yeah, and it could clearly also come from the north, from Hezbollah, and open up that whole other front. It's U.S. officials are very concerned as well. Another quick question to Peter, though. How do you read the political climate now? Because one of the president's closest allies, if not his closest ally in the Senate, Chris Coons, a prominent Foreign Relations Committee senator, came out very strongly today for the first time in terms of conditioning the military aid.
Andrea, you're exactly right. Not just Chris Coons, Bernie Sanders, a top progressive Democrat. The senator was here with the White House just yesterday, and shortly after his visit here, Sanders posted a statement basically saying that aid to Israel needs to stop. He certainly needs to be conditioned, if not more, right now. So there's a lot of that pressure, certainly coming from some Democrats and some of those who are close to President Biden right now. And the conversations I've been having from those in and around the national security community here, advisors to the president, is just this broad sense right now that there are divisions within, there are different viewpoints within, but the president feels very strongly about the need to continue to support Israel. It has to be some form of a tough love, obviously, right now, given just the huge numbers of civilian deaths taking place inside Gaza right now. But the bottom line is, in spite of the president's outrage and his anger at this point, his policy positions have not yet changed. Will we start to see any change in that policy? I think it'll be a real revelation. The only thing I would add is, and we'll keep an eye on this over the course of the day, depending how today's conversation goes, I think you could hear something a little bit different from this White House in reaction. Will they separately then call for an independent investigation? Did the president not get enough that he wanted to hear from Benjamin Netanyahu here and beyond? I think those are among the things we'll be watching for later today.
Yeah, and other non-profit agencies, humanitarian groups, have stopped their aid deliveries because of their concerns, given what happened to World Central Kitchen. So there may be some agreement, some sort of understanding to protect them so that they can get that aid back in. It strikes me that, and Chris Van Hollen, of course, was the senator leading a lot of this, along with Sanders initially. And it could be that the president could say to Netanyahu, Chris Coons is now wanting to condition aid, and use that as leverage. And we should also point out, Peter, you know this so well, and Raf, the aid to Israel right now is in the same package as the aid to Ukraine, which they are determined to get through, which they're working so hard with the speaker on some compromise to get through. And if it begins to be amended, and if the Israel piece of it becomes more controversial, that will jeopardize any clear sailing for aid to Ukraine, which is absolutely critical right now.
Hey everyone, MSNBC has a new and improved app. You'll get real-time alerts and analysis, live blogs, in-depth essays, video highlights, and the best 2024 election coverage. Download the new MSNBC app. Here's how to do it. You tap on the App Store on your phone. You hit search on the bottom right corner. You type in MSNBC. You click on the MSNBC app. You click on Get or the cloud icon and enjoy it.